Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Yacht-Master II, reference 116680 in stainless steel with Cerachrom blue ceramic bezel. You can see and you can purchase this programmable regatta timer on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Rolex Yacht-Master II in stainless steel. Now, the Yacht-Master II originally came out in 2007, but it wasn't until 2012 that the steel version delivered the watch that Rolex enthusiasts truly craved. A programmable countdown flyback or fly forward vertical clutch column wheel chronograph. At the time, it represented the most complex Rolex movement ever created. There's nothing complex about the fit, however. It actually fits well, being thinner than you imagine and better suited to a small wrist. We'll talk about the function in a moment, but fit comes first. So let's have at it. 44 millimeters across the round of the case. Do not confuse this with the other 44 millimeter rotating bezel Rolex. This is nothing like a deep C. Now, the timepiece in profile is only 13.9 millimeters thick, meaning with a sloped bezel, you can actually fit this underneath a dress sleeve. It is not thick by any measure considering 3 days of power reserve, a programmable flyback chronograph, and automatic winding, plus 100-meter water resistance, and lug-to-lug, it's fairly wearable, even on a smaller wrist. You can see my 16-centimeter circumference wrist has no issue with it. I would even say if your wrist is oval in profile down to 14.5 centimeters in circumference, you should wear this one with security and a good amount of style as well. Lug to lug, the watch measures 50 millimeters. It's quite tight and tidy. It does extend a little bit more if you measure from the solid end links, which extend the watch horizontally across the wrist, to a robust 57.2, but don't be dissuaded or intimidated by that number. You can see on my wrist it fits fine, and if your wrist is within 2 centimeters the size of mine, you should be fine, and of course it wears very well on a big wrist. Now, the timepiece is solid. A generation ago, this is what a full precious metal Rolex on a bracelet would have felt like. Substantial, massive, redolent of luxury, but with full steel, it has the durability of Rolex's proprietary 904L blend steel. Bracelet and case made in Rolex's manufacture and finished to a high standard. You can see polished on the outside, polished down the center links, satin and tapered on the outer shoulders. The clasp is remarkably solid. Of course, we're in the era of all solid links, center links and end links. The clasp, fully milled out from the solid, feels like a ingot of steel or a bank vault. Now, it's comfortable on your wrist, but the substance is immense. You also note it's fully finished inside and out. This is a premium Rolex and a flagship piece. Now, it features Rolex's 5mm Easy Link adjustment system, so you can take in 5, you can take out 5. It's the equivalent of removing a single removable or sizable link, and you can see all of the links are held in with screws. We're miles from pins and sleeves here. Now, the case is certainly more contemporary in profile than the likes of, for example, the current Daytona, but it doesn't have the ungainly width and questionable proportions of the first generation Deep Sea. Of course, for 2018, those lugs have been reprofiled. This is an elegance, but it has a strength to it and a squared off profile that actually strikes a nice balance between the elegance of a traditional Rolex case like the Daytona and a modern super case, the likes of which you'll see on, for instance, the Submariner. The case is all of high polish in profile, perhaps more rounded and fluid on the flanks than you might expect. The bezel itself is a functional structure associated with the movement, so what you're looking at is the outermost and only tactile component of the caliber 4161. It's the only part of the movement you can actually hold in your hand, and that's a rarity on any watch. Now, you can see the dial is truly white. It is not silver. It has no metallic grain. You're looking at a true gloss white dial, and it makes for outstanding contrast. It also gives the watch a handsome blue and white motif that makes it a reasonable approximation of vintage American Motorsports International racing colors, white with blue stripes. Now, you'll also note the bezel, all in ceramic with platinum inlaid for the characters of the bezel, is a substantial piece that will resist scratches and scuffs. Of course, being a functional part of the movement, you want to see how it actually works, and that's a question worth asking. You pivot it with the crown in its first position, that's threaded out in the winding position, but not pulled out to hacking. You turn the bezel counterclockwise to a stop. You plant the trigger at 4 o'clock, and then you adjust to program the countdown timer for however many minutes, up to 10, you wish to count down. Now, it continues its circuit if you keep adjusting forward by retrograding back to 0. Now, it is both a flyback and a fly forward. When you activate the flyback functionality via the trigger when the chronograph's in motion, it will jump to the nearest minute, and if that's a higher minute or a lower minute, well, that's where you're going. Now, of course, this is the 2012 to 2016 version of the watch. There were some changes to the hands and the index at 12, a few details overall that differentiated the 16 from the 17. So this is, to be clear, part of that first batch of steel Yacht-Master IIs. Now, there is more to the chronograph than meets the eye, and we may as well discuss it in depth. Let's start it up so you can see what it looks like. But first, let's program. I like 3 minutes. Shakespeare liked 3s. I like 3s. Okay, now, you'll note when you turn the bezel back to its vertically aligned position, the pusher at 4 pops out, and now you start your chronograph. Now, the nice thing about this chronograph system is it will count down, but once it reaches the end, the center seconds hand continues to turn, even as the triangular index stays planted at 0. So, effectively, because it is a vertical clutch system, there's no additional wear and tear for keeping the chronograph running full time. Although you do have constant seconds, I find that it's preferable to simply leave the chronograph running full time to have hours, minutes, and seconds easily readable at center. Now, because the watch does have robust seals screwed in case back, it is a 100-meter water-resistant watch. So though it is far more complex with more through-case fittings, an enormous one in the case of the bezel, nevertheless, it's just as water-resistant as something like an Explorer 2 or a GMT. Now, what's under the hood is shockingly complex. The caliber 4161 bidirectional automatic winding 72-hour or 3-day power reserve. It features a vertical clutch system which, as I mentioned, allows you to leave the chronograph running but also ensures a very smooth take-up to the chronograph action. There's no jumping, there's no staggering. It always starts immediately, stops immediately, and resets precisely to the index at 12 o'clock. Now, the other thing worth mentioning is that it is a traditional column wheel architecture. So you have the crisp tactile sensation of operating a high-end, finely hand-tuned chronograph mechanism. You can also hear the action of the chronograph. Again, that's the column wheel interacting with its horns and levers. Now, it is a full balance bridge with a free-sprung index, which gives the watch a good deal of shock resistance. It also features a handmade Breguet overcoil hairspring in Rolex's proprietary Parachrom blue alloy, the two features respectively, enabling the watch to keep consistent time with any orientation with respect to gravity. That is, very little positional deviation regardless of how it lays on your dresser at night. And thanks to the Parachrom alloy, it's also robustly anti-magnetic. This is a watch that is also a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, not just as a bare movement, which is the COSC standard, but once recased and fully operational as a finished watch, and Rolex provides that level of assurance as they test each watch prior to shipment to meet the COSC standards and then some as a fully cased up timepiece. A handsome watch that's an absolute charm if you know how to use it, and now you do. This might be the most useful chronograph Rolex offers. I find that more often than not, I tend to time things that are relatively short in duration with a chronograph, and the ability to customize timing for intervals between meetings, something that might be on the stove, periods when I'm broadcasting even and I need to be quick with my lines. It's always nice to be able to customize your timing, your countdown, and then read it in big, bold numbers rather than the spindly subdials of a conventional chronograph like the Daytona. So, though you may never race yachts, you may find that this is the absolute most useful chronograph in your quiver, no matter how many you own and no matter what the price of them. Perhaps the ultimate Rolex chronograph, and certainly the most distinctive Rolex complication, yes, even considering the Sky Dweller. You can see and you can purchase this Yacht-Master II in stainless steel on our website.